and welcome. Before we begin, big thanks to those few people who have been continually supporting this channel. Kudos to you guys, and what else can I say? There's a link down there, as always, for those other people that want to support the channel and the research that's going on. I wanted to take a different approach to what a lot of people do on YouTube, and that is to show you pictures of floods. I want to try and give you a scientific explanation or a theory, because it's not completely accepted as fact. It might be understood as being the real case for the cause of these events, but I'm going to certainly give you my take on that as a scientist. So, they're becoming more frequently, and there are taking place pretty much all over the world. They devastate crops, which is, as you know, very important. But what is it that is the cause of it? And can it be pole shift related? Well, it's surprising to me how many people do take for granted a lot of things for simple fact. Just to mention one very obvious one, the moon appearing the very same size as the sun in the sky, yet we know that the sun is 400 times further away. The moon is actually 400 times smaller, coincidentally, than the sun itself. So not only is it 400 times smaller, but it's also 400 times away. Yet, to our perspective on the ground, it appears the exact same size. If people pondered that a little bit more, I think that they would be probably more in line with myself to know that there's something else going on, quite not accepted or understood by mainstream science. But I wanted to give you just an example of another thing that people take for granted, and that is that the jet streams, polar jet streams and subtropical jet streams, both north and south of the equator, form horizontally in relation to the magnetic north poles. The other thing is that, as we know, the magnetic north poles have migrated, a few thousand miles in the last 100 years. Most scientists will agree that we are in a transition stage, meaning that we are going through a reversal, and that this is the first time since 780,000 years. This, I kid you not, is the biggest event technologically advanced mankind has ever witnessed, yet for some reason is completely, scarcely talked about for some reason. Now, when we have a magnetic reversal, it's usually an indication of the magneto that generates the magnetosphere. It's an indication that the magneto is weakening in the core, and as a result we get a weakened magnetosphere. It's estimated around about 20% has reduced in the magnetosphere over the last 100 years. I believe it's more accurately over the last 30 years, 40 years. But nevertheless, 20% reduction in the Earth's protective magnetic field, which shields us from harmful cosmic rays, not just from radiation coming from the sun, but also from the rest of this galaxy and the universe, is a significant amount. We have recently found in the last years that cosmic rays entering the atmosphere form perfect foundations for water droplets to condense on. And when you have more water condensing on these particles, it is no wonder you get more low-lying cloud. And it's the low-lying cloud that presents a hazard or a cause for these flash floods that we're seeing. So it's no wonder we're getting more of these floods. The other thing is, like I said earlier on, is that it's no coincidence that the jet streams are horizontally aligned with the magnetic north pole being vertical. And you can expect, if the magnetic poles are to migrate, then they are going to take along with it not just the Arctic climate like I've talked about. Possibly at some point we'll see a rotational shift, because these are the other two things in common in the Arctic and Antarctic region. But we're also going to see, as I've mentioned before, changes within the jet streams. This is not hidden. Science is talking about the absurd behaviour of the jet streams, and to me it seems quite obvious that the reason for those changes is because we are in the transition of a magnetic pole reversal. So we are going to see more and more of these events taking place, and as we do, we are probably going to become more at risk of floods, devastating crops, and it couldn't be at a worse time. It really couldn't, because at this present time there has never been so many people. So there's never been so many people to feed on this planet, so that those crops are more important than ever before. And it's at a time where they are directly under threat through climate. Now, scientists, as you know from a lot of these organisations, have been talking about CO2 being the cause of this, but we've recently seen through studying the charts that CO2 has continued to increase and temperatures have started to decrease. They are separating on the chart. So we know that it's not CO2, and also know that it's not man-made. The other thing is that prior to the last reversal 780,000 years ago, these magnetic reversals took place on average around 350,000 years in intervals. So, it could be argued that we wasn't in an industrial revolution that was kicking off massive amounts of CO2 during that period of time. So, these are just some of the images that we have had recently in the UK, and quite close to myself. Yesterday, within the last 30 miles, some cars were submerged underwater through these flash floods. And there is various amounts of reasons, but the majority is due to the low-lying cloud as part of the weakened magnetosphere. But there is also some other things that have been taking place which you have to take into account in the figures of these flash floods, and that is that we have been building in the UK and around the rest of the world roads and properties on low-lying ground and floodplains that were historically renowned for flooding. So, occasionally you are going to get problems in these areas, and those have to be, taken into consideration. But, you also have to take into consideration that these are, on the spur of the moment, flash floods that cause these, this amount of damage, as you can see in some of these photos. Where literally bridges are being swept away, roads are being swept away, properties and vehicles, etc. across the range. But it's not just in the UK. These things are happening all over the world, and that is because the climate is changing all over the world. Those jet streams are changing both over the northern hemisphere and over the southern hemisphere. And this is going to continue as we progress through this magnetic pole reversal. Now, on average, we get about 62,000 views on this channel. And, there is 7 billion people on this planet. Now, not only do we get in touch with those we don't get in touch, but we communicate to those 62,000 people, it still isn't enough, because you can talk about these subjects, but whether that is enough to encourage people to actually act upon these subjects, it's another matter. We need to do much more. We need to make the awareness of this anomaly that is taking place, this rare anomaly that is taking place, aware to much more people, and those people that are aware of it need to understand some of the serious implications that could quite possibly face them during their lifetimes, certainly during their children's lifetimes, and nothing could be more valuable. When these events occur, such as earthquakes, tsunamis, etc., they devastate lives. They wipe out people's lives. That has to be taken into consideration with regards to what is taking place. Just because it hasn't happened to one of ourselves, it doesn't mean that it's not going to. And, we hear those people that have been in these events, that have had these experiences, unfortunately, say exactly what we would probably say if it happened to ourselves, and that is, we did not expect it to happen. So we need to do more, is the bottom line. The trimagnetometer station needs to be finished so that we can track the heading of the magnetic North Pole. The FMG-free sensors need to be included in this data collecting so that we can monitor the weakening further of the Earth's magnetosphere. This is what this channel can offer, and the website as well. But we're going to need funding, a bit more funding than what we've been getting recently. Now, I'm always grateful for that one person. It does seem always that there is one person or two people that make a contribution, but there needs to be more, guys, and there is more work to be done. And the only way we can do that, unfortunately, is by raising more money to do it. So I'm not going to rattle on anymore. Guys, the link is there. It's a time now to be doing more. And with that, I'll leave it there, guys, and say what I usually do. Try and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank God that you are not caught up in some of these events like some of these unfortunate people have been already. And as always, bye for now.